Toronto Classic has seen a much needed but expected growth recently. Let's talk about what just happened for Toronto Classic and how the future of Toronto Classic will be changed forever. Let's dive into it. Okay, so right off the bat, we can see Toronto Classic right now up 6.5% on the day, getting close to basically a $600 million market cap, 24-hour trading volume, basically $69 million. Nice. Now, what happened with Toronto Classic recently? Well, we can see a couple posts here by LUNC Army. Right here, you guys can see they finished the WASM parity upgrade just a couple hours ago for Toronto Classic. So you should be able to use the Toronto Classic network right now. There might be a couple bugs depending on which application you're using. They might have a couple issues there that need to be adjusted in the code, but the core update has been completed. And this is so critical. You might be wondering, why is this such a critical update? Well, this is such a critical update because parity has arrived. What this means essentially is that different utilities, different projects are going to be able to use the Toronto Classic ecosystem so much easier. One of the big advantages to the Cosmos ecosystem, where you have Toronto Classic Network, you have all these different networks within this Cosmos ecosystem. The big advantage is that you have cross-chain functionality, essentially, where you can go ahead and utilize these different utilities within these different blockchains. So even though they're different blockchains technically, there's a lot of similarities between the different blockchains, and that essentially allows these different utilities to be transferable between these different blockchains extremely easily, which means that you can go ahead and use a lot of utilities, which is really important because Toronto Classic right now doesn't have a lot of utilities. Right now, we're missing a lot of core functionality that we need to see in the Toronto Classic ecosystem. For example, we don't really have a integrated Toronto Classic DEX, at least not a popular main one that we could use. We could actually accomplish that with parity. We don't have a lot of different utilities. We have like one casino application. We have an NFT platform that's a little bit smaller with Miata, but we can get access to a lot more opportunities through parity. We could get a lot bigger NFT platforms. We could get more casinos if people wanted that. We could get different NFT projects if people wanted that. There's so many opportunities here that'll be opened up with parity. Now, of course, one important thing to note is that Toronto Classic ecosystem is unique in the sense that we have our burn mechanism. Now, what does that mean for Toronto Classic? Now, this burn mechanism for Toronto Classic essentially means what we need to expect here is that utilities will have to make some adjustments for the burn mechanism. They're going to make some changes to their code for the burn mechanism, but I think, if I'm understanding correctly, that we could basically create a uniform set that people can make changes with that. So you could basically make some kind of base set of rules, essentially, for people to actually convert over with the burn mechanism. So you'd be like, here is this set of code that'll adjust your thing for the burn mechanism. And a lot of utilities in theory should be able to use that. So we can make that kind of a thing public and also have the task force actually help utilities if there are any issues with that. So it's not like they have to rewrite their entire code, work on an entirely different blockchain that operates totally differently. We are going to operate, for the vast majority of cases, like 95% of cases, very similar to other blockchains. It's just pretty much this burn mechanism that needs to be adjusted for, which is such a big deal because a lot of utilities, when they're trying to go from one blockchain to another, for example, there was a crypto game that I'm invested in, Million on Mars. This project ended up trying to go from one network to another network, and now they're adding on their third network. It's taking them like 2 months in between each network to get added. Of course, they're not spending all their time on that. They're also developing the game and stuff like that, but it's taking them a significant amount of time. If they were to dedicate all their resources, maybe it'd be a month or so for them to actually go between different blockchains because there's all these differences between the different blockchains, how they function, how they operate, how the code needs to be put together. All these things change from the different blockchains, so it takes a lot of work. With this Toronto Classic change, I don't know the exact number of how long it would take, but my guess would be a couple days maybe to make adjustments for this different burn tax. Otherwise, these different utilities would be able to come to our ecosystem. And if you think about it, for these different utilities, let's say they're on a network right now within the Cosmos that's maybe not quite as popular as Toronto Classic, because Toronto Classic, I believe, has one of the largest followings out there within this Cosmos ecosystem. So say they're on a network that's maybe not as big as Toronto Classic. They want to come over to Toronto Classic, obviously, to capture that audience to join our ecosystem. If they only have to spend, let's say maybe it's 2 days to actually make their code adjusted so they could run it on the Toronto Classic network, that'd be a no-brainer. That would be so easy for them to just integrate Toronto Classic into their working project. And this is really the big advantage of parity. Instead of them having to make massive changes to their code, spend weeks and weeks adjusting their code, they could probably do this within a couple days, maybe even a couple hours. I'm not exactly sure, but a very short time span compared to what it would be otherwise, which is really big value proposition for Toronto Classic because there are thousands thousands of different utilities on these different networks within the cosmos that we don't have right now that now we can actually access. By the way, if you appreciate content like this, make sure you guys subscribe down below, smash that like button, and let's keep going. Another major update that we received is all validators now have a 5% minimum commission. This is done to try and avoid some pricing strategies where you basically try and price out your competitors. A lot of validators were doing 0% fees, which means every single month, if they are running through all nodes or a different hosting service, they're gonna be spending $500,000 a month out of their pocket because they're running a 0% fee, so they're making no money off their node. And what they're trying to do with that basically is gain a ton of control. We saw a bunch of those validators gain multiple percentages of control when other validators that maybe were more active in the community, they were struggling to get 0.5% or even 0.25% of voting power for the Terra Classic ecosystem, which is important because with Terra Classic, what we saw is that the top 10 validators had basically 50% of the voting power for quite some time, which is a problem because those top 10 determines what happens for the future of Terra Classic. Outside of that, really the other validators don't have much say. And so by implementing this, it's going to be more fair for all the validators, and we won't have a bunch of validators shut down. We've seen so many different validators have had to shut down because they've been running unprofitably, and some people just can't afford to spend hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars every single month out of their pocket to run a validator for our ecosystem. So by implementing this, it's going to be a lot more fair competition because while you might say, well, 0%, that's just free market, with our Terra Classic ecosystem, this is the protection of the future of Terra Classic. This is the direction of the future of Terra Classic. This is not just some business. This is so critical, which is why I think this is actually a really good change to implement this. Maybe we even make this 10%, or we can figure out where we want this to be. But having a minimum commission, I think is so good because it'll help decentralize our network, which means the network is safer, it protects the Terra Classic network from attacks, and it also gives the power back to us, the people, instead of the big whales. Another thing to note that if you guys wanted to go ahead and join this parody party that they're going to have tomorrow, this is the LUNC Development Fund. They're a validator that is extremely active in the Terra Classic community. They're a really great validator. They're having a party tomorrow where you guys go ahead, join this space, and basically celebrate the fact that we finally accomplished parity. This is something that we've been talking about for months, probably over 6 months that we've wanted to accomplish this. We're finally there with this Terra Classic update, and a lot of people are really excited about that, which is causing the price of Terra Classic to go up a lot. Now you guys can see we're seeing a little bit of a red candle, but we peaked out basically dropping to 0 right here at the 1 level, and now we're at 9.8. So we're just shy of that 0 level, but we ended up pushing right past it just a little while ago. And this is so important for Terra Classic because we've obviously been struggling on the price of Terra Classic for a while. You guys can see the price has been on a downward trend for the past couple of months, but we're seeing the first really major chain turnaround, I should say, in this downward trend. It's not pushing us back towards the highs that we saw way back in September yet, but this is a major change where we're not seeing this consistent downward pattern. We're starting to actually see some upwards momentum. So hopefully, as we get more of these utilities into our ecosystem, again, maybe it's going to take a couple of days or a couple of weeks for them to actually get onto our ecosystem. But as we get to these different utilities in the Terra Classic ecosystem, it's going to provide so much value to Terra Classic. I think Terra Classic has a massive potential to make a comeback if we can play our cards right here. And a really important thing is to support these utilities as they come on. Just having them build on our network doesn't really do anything if nobody uses it. So we really need to make an effort to try and use these different utilities and actually provide value back to them to show other utilities, wow, it's well worth it to go onto this network because XYZ ended up making tons of money. So then they want to join it too. That's the situation we want to have, is where there's so much competition of these utilities wanting to get our attention, wanting to get our value, that we have so much value coming into the Terra Classic ecosystem. If you want to learn more about the potential of Terra Classic to just see explosive growth in the next couple months, check out this video up here, and I'll catch you on the next one.